3, 2, 1. Welcome to Reuters Next, the Minister of Finance for Angola, Vera de Sousa. I'm Rachel Savage, Africa Senior Markets Correspondent for Reuters. Welcome, Minister, and thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
So Angola is one of Africa's biggest oil producers, but oil production has been falling recently. Could you give the Reuters Next audience an idea of where oil production is currently and where you see it at for the next year?
Well, we are seeing the oil production underperforming. You are right. We prepared our 2023 budget counting on 1.18 million barrels per day, and we are expecting close the year with 1.08 million barrels per day. So underperforming, to be as conservative as possible with the 2024 budget. We we have prepared it based on assumption of 1.06 million barrels per day, and the oil companies assured to our Minister of Mineral Resources and Oil that they are comfortable with that level, and probably they can even do slightly more than this. But we, on the fiscal side, we prefer to work with a more conservative scenario, even if we find positive surprises coming from the oil companies. So some regular maintenance happened this year. Some like stress regarding the fact that some oil fields are old. Some of them operating at marginal costs. So we are at the same time putting in place, enforcing the right incentives for the oil companies continue to operate those old oil fields, and at the same time launching new blocks to start drilling and hopefully find new discoveries. Some of them are onshore, and we hope that based on that, we will see a more quicker results in terms of exploration after the finalization of those tenders.
And these new blocks, both the onshore and offshore, do you and the oil ministry have any particular idea of how many barrels could be in those blocks and what therefore production could be raised to if those blocks are successfully tapped?
Well, we closed our 2023-2027 National Development Plan, considering that we want to stabilize the production for the next 5 years around 1.14 million barrels per day. So the prospectus around those discoveries is to compensate the natural decline of the oil fields in a way that we will stabilize our oil production around those levels. So we are working on that. The Minister of Oil and Mineral Resources are working on that. Of course, we can see some surprises happening because it's a process that we will be sure after the oil companies start drilling. But based on the predictions, that's the amount or the levels that we are expecting for the next 5 years.
Thank you for that, Minister. A big budget item for Angola has been fuel subsidies, which the government began to remove this year, and the subsequent price hikes provoked protests in which at least 5 people died. Was the increase in petrol prices this year a mistake?
Well, for this year, we are done, but we continue to keep moving on a path of removing the subsidies, not only on fuel, but we also have some on public transports, and we have some in electricity. The tariffs still have to be adjusted. Water, and we want to continue working on the prices, the general level of prices of the economy, and also work with the public enterprises to make sure that we are removing the inefficiencies, because the inefficiencies of the companies could not be passed through the final consumers. So an approach of normalize the prices of the economy, find the fair price, enforce the reforms that we already put in place, especially on electricity and water. We already have the legal framework. We only need to enforce it, and also work on the efficiency of our electricity and water companies. We are working closely with the World Bank, with technical assistance on that. And regarding the fuel subsidies, we are also working with the World Bank, thinking about how we can improve the mitigation measures to make sure that as soon we continue, because we already started, as you know, as soon we continue at the beginning of the next year with the gradual adjustment, we are able to implement also mitigation measures that are quite effective, and we can also protect the most vulnerable citizen in Angola.
So what would these mitigation measures look like, and what time frame are we talking about for the adjustment in electricity and water and fuel prices?
Well, we are looking at the revenue side, the revenue of the families. We prepared 2024 budget with a proposal of a 5% adjustment in the wages of the public servants, and also the increase of the exemption limit for the national wages. We were talking about 70,000 kwanzas of exemption limits for personal income tax, and we are proposing now 100,000 kwanzas. Is something to uh, release some income for the families to address those challenges. But we are also working on the side of strengthening and gaining speed in terms of the cash transfer program. We want to keep moving, not only implementing an increase of amount that we already started from 8,000 to 11,000 kwanzas, but also implementing faster on the rural area, but also in the peri-urban areas where we are also seeing some poverty coming out. At the transport levels, we are working with a card, so like a social pass for citizens that need protection, to targeting them, students and elderly people, targeted citizens to protect their access to public transports, and somehow make sure that they can move across the city around the country without constraints.
And these protection measures, will they be paid for by the reduction in subsidies, or are there other fiscal measures that you're planning in the 2024 budget?
Well, we will see a gap, okay, in between the movement that we are in between the moment that we are taking out the fuel subsidies, because we need to wait to the effects to be transmitted to the oil companies, especially Sonangol, and after that the profits to the revenues to increase of Sonangol, the profits to increase, and after that Sonangol paying dividends. So this will take time, but it will release some fiscal space. The amount of money that we put in the budget to do it, it will be released to increase expenditures and social expenditures. That it's also a way to compensate, to put more money on education, to put more money on health. This is an indirect positive effect that we expect that could help for us to manage the social expectations of the citizens. But considering the treasury issue, because some of the measures need to be paid, we are working closely with the World Bank to see if we can, under a budget support, have access to some liquidity to manage this transition process of having enough treasury to paying some of the mitigation measures or compensate a drop in the revenues, considering what we decided to do in terms of personal income tax, and have time to breathe while we are not seeing the positive effects in the treasury of Sonangol start performing better and paying also better dividends, and also paying some taxes, because we used to compensate in when we are not able on a treasury perspective of paying Sonangol with the subsidies. We are compensating it with taxes that Sonangol should pay for the state. So removing this from the way, we will be able to see Sonangol normally paying taxes and also improve their profits and paying dividends to the state.
When do you hope that Sonangol's finances will be such that it's paying dividends and taxes?
Of course, Sonangol need to continue doing internal work, as I mentioned, to improve their own efficiency, to reduce their own costs. It's an internal work that do not depend from the treasury, do not depend of the efforts coming from the shareholder state. This we will continue motivating Sonangol to do so. On the part that is the shareholder state responsibility, we are expecting to do the reform on fuel subsidies in the next 2 years, or close in the next 2 years, 2025, end of 2025. We expect to see this process stabilized and closed as much as possible, to starting on 2026, seeing a different Sonangol, combining both efforts, the state effort to see more efficiency on the prices of the economy, and the Sonangol effort on reducing costs and being more commercially aggressive and viable.
And speaking of Sonangol, your government has had a sort of long-standing plan to part privatize Sonangol. Could you give us an update on the status of that process?
Sonangol is doing his way to reorganize himself, to get rid of all the lawsuits that is ongoing, to recover some assets. And we expect after that, seeing Sonangol able to be part of the companies that it's ongoing in terms of privatization program. We expect Sonangol is closing this process in between 2024 and 2025 to start the due diligence process, and hopefully in between 2025 2026 be able to move with an APO. Tonango, we're talking about dual listing, listing himself here at Bolivar and internationally. But we are pushing. We are pushing to see this process happening as quick as possible.
And the dual listing, does the government have any particular, or Sonangol itself have any particular international destination in mind yet, or is that still being considered?
Still being considered. That decision was not taken yet. We are studying different opportunities and approaches, and Sonangol, of course, has a word to say.
And I wanted to ask you about the Kwanza. It's been trading in a sort of relatively narrow band since being devalued in June, around sort of 830 Kwanza to $1. There have been some media reports that the central bank has been restricting foreign currency trading. Could you comment on whether these reports are accurate?
Okay. Before that, just to let you know that we do not have only Sonangol for the privatization program. We also have ENSA. It's our biggest insurance company that we will see in 2024 a process also via our stock exchange. We will be selling it. We are talking also about the aviation company. We also want to study if we can find a private partner for a part of it to help us with management and probably also selling a share of it. So we have more 43 assets to start the process of being privatized, and 24 process ongoing. We are talking about Unitel, we are talking about BFA, a huge bank that we have here, very good assets. So while we are not done with Sonangol, we have interest assets to present and also to capture interest from the international investors that want to be part of our stock market. About the exchange rate, well, as you know, this is a hot topic for the central bank. The exchange rate and the inflation is something that the central bank are the main the central mandate coming from our BNA. BNA is putting a lot of energy on inflation to protect the capacity of the families to buy goods and services. So the monetary policy has been conducted for us to recover the descendant trajectory of the inflation. So the energy is on that. Regarding the exchange rate, we understand that the central bank is letting the market float, seeing what happened in between offer and demand side, and avoiding intervention as a way of also protecting our international reserves. What we are doing at our side is to putting all resources that are requested from the Treasury available to public financial instrument, public initiatives to see more happening from sectors and from projects that can allow us to have hard currency coming apart from oil. So the diversification agenda, the food security is something that we are working hard because we understand that is the main source of pressure for the exchange rate. We import a lot, especially goods for coming from the agri side, and we are only seeing hard currency coming from sports of oil. So this is a structural challenge that we need to address, and the Treasury contribution to address this is to put money where is necessary, and the right incentives also contribute to the improvement of the business environment, despite being the Minister of Economy and Planning, the owner of this challenge, but we keep contributing, looking to especially to the fiscal environment, uh, just to make sure that structurally we address that challenge. While this do not happen, we need to keep following what the central bank is, how the central bank is it's managing the situation, and when we have space after fulfilling our commitments in terms of debt service, in terms of paying some dollars or euros or other currency responsibilities, also participate in the market selling some dollars. So the Treasury can also participate selling, and we continue selling more modest amounts as a way also to see some of the demand attended. So I cannot predict where we will see the exchange rate at the end of the year. I cannot. But what I can assure to you is that we are working within the economic team to address the structural challenges, while in the conjunctural side, we need to continue managing, considering the amount of money that is available for doing so, especially looking on the Treasury participation in the market.
Minister, this has been absolutely fascinating. Unfortunately, we're at time, so we'll have to continue our conversations on other subjects another time. But thank you so much for joining us at Reuters Next. We appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.